Okay, so today I just wanted to share a little bit about what the editing process is like on my photos. So today I pulled up a photo I took just yesterday, and I'm just gonna walk you through both my editing philosophy and just an actual live edit. So I don't exactly know where I'm gonna go with this just yet. We're gonna figure this out as I shoot. I will say though, number one thing to keep in mind with editing for me, there are two things that are true. Number one is you shoot with the edit in mind. I won't be going too much into that just now because that's something that needs to be more taken into account of before you start shooting. But that is a core principle that I strongly think every photographer needs to be doing. It's super important and it makes your life easier in post. Second is to be very, very light with your edits. Less is more, less is more, less is more, less is more. I'm going to be working in Capture One today. I recently swapped over to this program a few months ago. I was using Lightroom for about 4-ish years ago before this. The process is the exact same thing. It's totally interchangeable between the programs. Use whichever one you prefer. I'm going to be doing this as Capture One just because recently I've been preferring it more for my work. But again, everything is the exact same in Lightroom. Just apply the adjustments as necessary. I'm not going to be doing anything in Capture One that cannot be done in Lightroom. First thing you want to do is take a look at your photo. For this one, I just picked a random shot from the photo shoot last night. And overall, I'm moderately okay with how this one came out. I'm going to make a couple small adjustments right now. And I'm going to start by just adjusting the crop because I know immediately I don't like this slight sliver of this concrete. So I'm just going to slightly crop down and move it up to compensate. And I'm automatically more happy with that image. So that's all I want to do here. I'm just going to start by cropping my picture to where I'm happy. I'm doing that so I don't edit things that aren't really necessary to be for the picture to work for its full effect. There's really no magic. It's just do whatever is most creatively appropriate for me. That's what that was here. So the challenge I'm going to be working with here is there is lots and lots of black here. She's got a black jacket on, she's got black hair, black sunglasses, black eyes, lots of shadows on the right side of the image here. So that's going to be the biggest challenge with this picture. So let's talk a little bit about how I'm going to address that. So I'm going to go over to our adjustment tabs, which this is just the edit tab in Lightroom. And I'm just going to work through with some things first. You'll notice that pretty much I'm going to go in order because that's what's most important for me. So first I'm going to do my white balance. I'm pretty much happy with this because I set it in camera before we shot. Maybe I want it slightly cooler. No, I'm going to leave my white balance as is. Typically you only adjust this if it's off or if there's something weird happening. But because I shot this with strobe and I had already predetermined my white balance, I really don't need to worry too much about this because I'm really happy with how it came out overall. Maybe we can pull a little bit of no, we're gonna leave that as is. I'm pretty happy with those colors. Next, I'm gonna start adjusting my exposure. Overall, it's a little bit on the dark side, so I'm just gonna pull things up just a little bit. Not too much here. Most of my adjustments are gonna be in the I'm gonna pull it up a third of a stop. Most of my shadow adjustments are going to come later. But I'm just trying to give myself a little bit more room overall. As a matter of fact, I may go 0.66, and it's a little bright now, but that is okay. My contrast slider, I'm gonna leave as is. Maybe pull down slightly. So the goal with these first couple tabs with the white balance exposure and my high dynamic range, the goal of these tabs is not to create the best image possible. Instead, the goal at this point is to give myself a nice baseline to come in and add color later. We're just giving ourselves a nice starting point. And you'll notice I'm really not moving my slides a whole lot. I'm doing just enough that the impacts are felt, but I'm really not going crazy. I'm just going to adjust my dynamic range here as well. I'm going to pull down my highlights just a hair. I'm going to raise our shadows up a little bit. Just a hair. Here's the white point. just a hair. Maybe even we'll raise our black point just a little bit. Since we're raising our black point, I'm going to drop my shadows back down a little bit more. And that should give me a pretty good starting point. This is before, this is after. Before, after, before, after, before, after. Now we haven't done a whole lot. We've basically just recovered some information in our shadows, which is perfectly fine, right? At this point, we are literally just trying to create a good foundation for what we're going to be doing next. So now that I've got a good baseline, I can come in and add some flavor. So for example, I'm going to add a slight fade, not a ton, just enough to be felt. I'm lowering that black point just a little bit more. I'm going to come back in, add just a little bit of shadow back in. Trying to create a nice balance of fade. We don't want the image to be washed out, but we also don't want the super deep blacks that we had before. Rolling off our highlights just a little bit, just so they're not as harsh. The softbox I was using was pretty decent about that, but we still got a little bit of harshness here. So we're just going to try and roll those off so they're not as obnoxious. It's a very loose S-curve, but you know. Again, you'll notice a lot of my adjustments are very, very subtle. A little bit goes a long way when you're editing photos. You really, especially at this point, you don't need to do a lot of heavy adjustments, right? Just a little bit of pulling here and there will completely change the character of the image. I'm not gonna mess too much with clarity here. Not because I won't need to, but I will be able to do so later in Photoshop. I will haze this up just a little bit just because we shot this in Los Angeles. And those of you who live in Los Angeles know that typically, even if you're shooting in the right conditions, you will still get just a little bit of haze no matter what you're doing. So I'm going to pull some of that out. Now, this is where a lot of people go wrong, and it is in the color and color balance or color grading and lighting room. Lighting room and light room. For these, this is where the idea of shooting with the edit in mind is a huge deal breaker. Most of the time, I'm generally not adjusting these colors a ton. And that's because before I even take the picture, I'm already thinking about what colors I want in the frame, so I don't need to come in and adjust here. Now, that's not to say that you are not allowed to change color or you can't change color. I just think it makes your life easier to not have to do that here. Especially because Lightroom is predominantly made for global color adjustments. I know you can create layer masks to do so, but I find those masks to not be the greatest. So all I'm going to do here is focus on creating a unique color palette, not unique, sorry. I'm only going to focus on creating a united color palette here. And in my case, it's easy because we only have two colors really present in this image. So in my case, one of my favorite tools to use is the Adobe Color Wheel. This is a great tool. I'm always using it to figure out what color palettes I'm going to use. In this case, since we literally only have black and red, we can really hone in on what colors we want to use. Now, I've also noticed she's got a little bit of pinkish makeup here, so that's actually going to pull me away from a monochromatic color scheme to something a little more analogous. And the goal of this is just to lean into the fact that color harmonies naturally make our brain look good. So, again, this is something I'm using well before I've gotten to this point, right? This is something I've thought about before I've shot, but I'm aware of it because it's going to influence everything. And you see, you also notice here in this picture, she's got these little bluish, purplish, lavenderish earrings. That's also something to take note of because I can change the color of these. And in fact, I think I will, not because they're bad or ugly, but because I think color-wise, it'll make my life easier. Though there's something to be said about it being closer to purple to pull towards this analogous color scheme. Skin tones sit in an orange-ish range. So this could work. We just need to pull this slightly closer to this purple. So let's go ahead and do that now. We'll start by just coming in here. I'm going to start by pulling the bluish tones closer to purple first. And because we're about to take this into Lightroom as well, I'm sorry, into Photoshop as well, I don't need to be super specific, but I'm just being aware of it. Now, super subtle, but again, you don't need to go crazy when editing. Less is more. For 99% of your edits, they should be felt, not seen. It's only when you're doing something over the top or intentionally to draw your attention to it that it needs to be seen. Felt, not seen is the goal. Okay, so I'm also gonna slightly pull, is that now where her makeup is sitting? Is her makeup sitting here? It is, okay, well that's good. So I'm just gonna slightly pull this red towards the oranges just because it'll feel more consistent with all the other photos that we aren't getting to today, but that's just where that'll be. Now, when it comes to editing skin tones, Capture One has a specific skin tone tool. I know a lot of you are going to be using Lightroom, so I'm just going to use the basic colors for now. Skin tones all sit in this orange, sometimes yellow, sometimes red, but mostly in the orange range. And for me, my number one goal is accuracy when it comes to skin color especially. So I have a picture of the model pulled up on my phone that I'm going to use to just reference her skin color to make sure everything's okay. I know generally what she looks like, but this is just going to confirm, double checking everything. I'm not super concerned with following the color palette at this point just because it's a skin tone and skin tones supersede the importance of the color palette in my case. Really, that's all I need to do here. And I could come in here and mess around with these other colors, but most of them aren't even in the image, so there's no point in me adjusting them. Maybe this blue might be in that earring. What color is this right here that I'm seeing? Oh no. Might be a little bit of this blue. It is. There you go. And the only reason we can get away with these without doing some isolation through masking is because these colors, or is it because there's so few colors present in this image? You can tell that I planned this out because there are so few colors for me to even have to adjust. So, she's got a little bit of red orangish flare here in her hair that I'm okay with. I'm even going to increase the saturation of that red in her lips just a little bit more, just so it pops out. And I may desaturate her skin just a hair, not a ton. I don't want her to look dead, but I just don't want it to be so prominent. Let's see. Now when it comes to things like her eyes, we're going to pop that out. I'm even going to pull out yellow slightly, just because her skin is very vibrant. She's been taking good care of it. You'll see all I'm doing is just trying to create unity. So before and after, before, after, before, after, before, after, before, after, before, after, before, after. Now, cool thing I'm starting to notice since I've been going back and forth is I think I've actually added too much of a fade. I can tell because I'm starting to get a color cast here in the shadows. So I'm going to fix that by just coming back into my curves channel. There's two ways. I'm going to try it this way by pulling some of those reds out. My goal here is just to neutralize some of those reds, that's all. I don't like how this is doing it, so instead what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slightly bring that fade back down. And pull our down a little bit. That's good. And let me come back to... So I'm also going to add a slight vignette. We don't need a ton since there's already so much black here. Now, once I've reached this point, I will do one of two things. If it is important that I have a specific overall look, what I like to do is I actually like to color grade using this tab rather than the color grade channel. I don't know. I just find it to be more effective. And for me, I typically only adjust my red and green. So a common color grade for me will be, let's pull some blues in, pull some reds up, and do almost like a mini reverse S-curve. In this case, I don't know if this will work for these photos. But I'm going to do it just to see what it does. Let's just see. I'm not really feeling this look. Though I don't hate this one, I just hate how it's making her hair look super red. So to fix that, I'm going to counteract that with some blue. So now I've got a little bit of a greenish, tealish tint to her jacket, which I'm okay with. I'm actually quite enjoying the contrast that it's starting to give me, so it's even sort of starting to encourage me to go in that direction altogether. Because I quite like what it's doing. So, that's a solid starting point. I'm just leaving myself room to keep pushing later on, right? That's all. That's what this is all about, right? You're building up a painting layer by layer, giving yourself room to push and push and push later on, right? There's no reason. You don't have to put all your eggs right at the start. Just give yourself room to push and push and push. So, I'm happy about this coming out. That's all the key details you need to adjust. I'm going to come in here to the refine tab as well and just adjust little things here. This stuff like sharpening, adding in grain, all that sort of stuff. Not super important here. And I tend to take sharpness out of my photos, especially if people lenses now are just too good. I don't need to do any noise reduction. This is shot at like 100, 200 ISO. We don't need to do any of that. F10, I'm coming at a little bit of grain, just a little bit of grain. I don't need to go too crazy here now, because I know later I'm going to do a lot more, but I just want enough that I can see it, basically. Like, I can see it there, so that's probably too much. Maybe closer to here would be good. Okay, so from here now, I'm going to take this photo into Photoshop, and we're going to edit it a little bit further. Okay, now in Photoshop, I edit portraits in 3 different phases. Part 1 is what I call just the cleanup phase, right? So this will look at like two to three different things. The first is just general dust strays. I'm just cleaning up small little things in this point. So for example, in this picture, in this case, there'll be these little specks right here. So I'm just gonna come here, take my spot healing tool. Just gonna come in here and just get the image as clean as possible. And you know, these are small things, but these small little details add up across an image, right? Too many little fuck ups like that and your picture is just shit. So you gotta be about your P's and Q's. And at this point, I'd also start looking at any blemishes here as well. You don't need to go crazy, but just small little things. Now, for me personally, I will not touch up any permanent scars, moles, or just other things that are naturally a part of somebody's face. But stuff like pimples or things that'll be gone from your face in like 1 to 2 weeks, I will not remove. I don't know if sometimes it's kind of hard to tell. But generally speaking, like for example here, I'm pretty sure this is a mole. I'm not going to remove this. Just because it takes away from her natural beauty. It's very, very important to not change what a person looks like. Just small things that aren't really who they are. They're just small moments of their life, right? You aren't defined by your pimple. That's just a part of your life for the week it's ruining your face. And that's pretty solid. I'm happy. It's a relatively clean image so far. And sometimes you have to zoom in and out just to double check, right? Because sometimes your computer screen's a little dirty. But overall, I think that's solid. So from here, I'm gonna go in and then make another layer. I'm gonna do stray hairs. Now this one usually takes super long. Now when it comes to this, I only like to remove hairs that are actually distracting. And I have a brush just for this, just because I do it so often. But you can do it with a regular spot healing brush. It's nothing fancy. And remember, the goal here is just to remove any distracting hairs. Anything that is not going to ruin an image, I'm not going to stress myself over it, because you'll be fighting hairs all day. So just look for hairs that are really going to ruin the image. So from here, what I like to do is I just group all these layers together. I'm gonna call this just general cleanup, or technically I'd call this light retouching. What we're about to get into is what I would call high-end retouching. What's the button? Look for the controller or Control E. Okay, so I've created 3 layers. I'm going to group these guys all together and call them high-end retouching. So before I go and do what I'm about to do, if I felt the need to change any colors of skins or such, here is where I would start playing around with my hue saturation channel, my color balance channel, and selective color. This is where I would start playing with these 3 if I need to. In this case, I don't feel the need to. So I'm just going to remove those, and I'm just going to focus in on the retouching aspect. So, what we're doing is just typical frequency separation. There are plenty of tutorials on YouTube that focus on this, so I'm not gonna. This isn't really a frequency tutorial. This isn't a frequency separation tutorial, so I'm not going to commentate all the way through this. But just know that that's what I'm doing right now, is frequency separation. So I will throw in this little commentary. The goal of frequency separation is not to completely change somebody's skin. When it's done well, that should not be what the overall look is at all. The only purpose of this is solely to make the transitions in someone's skin look more natural, right? I mean, maybe natural isn't the word, but more pleasing to the eye. So it's nothing to do with trying to change how someone's face looks or hating how someone looks. That's not what this is about. This is just purely about making sure that the light and the color transitions in your face are working as harmoniously as possible. When you're editing any photos of people, that should be your ultimate goal, is make them look their best, not change how they look. If you're changing how somebody looks completely, you've lost the point. Alright, so this is definitely the slowest part of the process, but the good news is once it's done, you pretty much never have to do anything like this again. So, once I've reached this point, I am pretty much done. Now, I've done this a little bit out of order, but I think it should still be okay. I'm just going to duplicate, condense. I'm going to make an eye adjustment layer, and the only goal here is just, I'm going to lift up her eyes just a little bit. Just give her eyes a little bit more life. Ideally, what I would instead do is have a light over here to give her some sort of catch light, but we didn't have that in a moment, so I'm going to just make some small adjustments here to try and counteract that. Just because it will make my life easier later. Right now, especially with eyes, whatever looks good to me, I always pull back just a little bit, just to avoid the glossy eye look. Okay. Now, what I like to do at this point is I will then, since we've done some retouching, what we need to do now is basically, we've lost a lot of contrast. You can sort of see it in our highlights being lost. So we're going to dodge and burn a little bit of that back in, just so we can have the highest image possible. And this is the easiest part. Dodge and burn. So I'm just going to create 2 more curves just so I have what I need. One's going to be dodging. One's going to be burning, and all this dodging and burning means is essentially you're adding contrast. That's basically all we're doing, but we're doing it selectively. This is something that was done on film in the ye olden times. This is just a digital version of it, essentially. Okay, and you can see that once I've reached this point, it is pretty much finished, right? So we just restored some of the contrast, making sure that some of the lighting styles were accurately seen, and we've fixed this image up just to be exactly where I want it. So I went through this one pretty quickly. I'm gonna play with it a little bit more, but overall, that's all it takes to get a good image, right? So overall, my main things I wanted to take away from everybody is less is more. Treat each edit like a small brushstroke when painting, and don't feel the need to over edit. Just make sure if you are making a change, you are doing it with a purpose, and you can talk about why you're making that decision. It's super important. If you don't know why you're making an edit, don't make the edit. Hopefully this is helpful to see my process, and I'll catch you guys in next week's video. Peace.